Trying to set everything up. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button on the way in. All right. Share the video if you can. Real quick, before I get started, I just want to say rest in peace to my Uncle Tony. He passed away the other day, and it was part of it's the reason why I wasn't live the other night. All right, lost my uncle the other day, and that's why I didn't go live. All right, normally I even like reach out and hit you guys up, let you know I'm not coming live. But yeah, that's the reason why I wasn't on live the other day, to do the live commentary for the fight. All right. So before we get into boxing, a shout out to everyone that's here. Country Roadside or Rotis, Counterpunch. What's up, Counterpunch? What's up, Legend? What's good? Just want to go over real quick my review of the UFC fight, the main fight with Ngannou and Gane. I spoke on it briefly last week. I saw the fight, and me and my dad was able to watch the fight. We was able to watch the Gary Russell fight as well. I thought Ngannou won the fight, but I think the both of them needs to work on some things. Ngannou definitely needs to work on his submissions and his groundwork, and I think Gane needed to do the same. I thought Gane was a superior guy at that, but it was such a weird fight to me because I thought there was so many times and so many opportunities that both of them could have stopped each other or submitted each other. But it was a fun card overall, and I watched the majority of the fights on the card, but I was flipping back and forth to boxing. Me and my dad was watching it, just couldn't go live though. But I hope with Ngannou, I hope he goes on and sort everything out with his contract, because he should be getting millions for the fights that he's had and the champions he is. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys sign contracts before they get super big, and then when they get super big, they want more money. In the UFC, they stick you with that contract that you sign. The same thing with any other sport. Same thing with the music industry and whatnot. All right. So anyway, let's get into Anthony Joshua. All right, let's get straight into that. I want to talk about that first because that's the news of the day. I know I wasn't doing any content the last few days, but I seen that these rumors of him taking step aside money in order to let Usyk and Fury fight for Undisputed. All right. And thank you for everyone that's saying, sending their condolences. I appreciate that. Anthony Joshua, these rumors, you got to be careful with these rumors because there's so many reports from credible websites that are coming out and saying this. If you Google it, it's all over the place. I've seen it. It's not like I haven't seen it. Me personally, I was kind of just waiting to see how this was all going to get, play out. Anthony Joshua went on IFL TV. Well, he didn't go on there, but I think he posted it on his social media, and IFL TV shared the video of him saying, look, there's a lot of rumors of me fighting and taking step aside money, 15 million or 15 million euros. Okay. And it's all bullshit. I haven't seen a contract. And that's what he's basically saying. All right. Now, the last couple of days, we've heard rumors he's going to take this amount of money and he was going to step aside for Undisputed. Now, me, like many other content creators, we just want Undisputed. I think we all wanted it. Similar situation with Fury and Joshua. Before the Usyk fight, I didn't make any content because I knew the arbitration thing was still lingering around. Regardless of what Bob said or Frank Warren said or Fury said, I knew that this arbitration thing wasn't over. I knew that the year prior, Fury and Wilder agreed to 2 fights. All right. We heard the news back when we heard it a while back. And I knew that I didn't want to get excited for something that we weren't going to get. You know, I didn't want to pretend like Joshua and Fury would fight Undisputed when Fury was still in a contract with Deontay Wilder. And with everything that happened in 2020, I wasn't sure if they can just bypass that contract because of the timing expired when everything was canceled in 2020. Everything was frozen. You know, there are things that can stop a fight from happening. So in this situation here, the reason why I didn't believe it and I was kind of just waiting and see how this played out is because I'm not saying this is impossible, but to pay someone 15 million euros to not fight sounds like a bit too much for me. You know, not only that, but you had the Dillian White situation where they're still in arbitration with the WBC about that. And is it possible that they can possibly just skip Dillian White and just say, all right, you know what? We're going to go straight to Undisputed because Undisputed trumps mandatories. The WBC is not on Dillian White's side. We already know that. So I don't want to say that's the biggest issue here. I think the bigger issue is clearly Anthony Joshua and that rematch clause that has been put into place. All right. So the rumors have come out, and if you look at these reports, they're real slick. And this is what happened with me in the end of the Andre Ward situation. Remember, I made an apology video to Andre Ward because there were reports at that time that Andre Ward had made some comments. Damn, I can't remember what it was about. But anyway, I made an apology video, and it was based on reports that were really slick on how they word certain things. And if you look at any of these reports, they always include the word rumor. Okay. Now, there's times where a boxer or a fighter is interviewed and they take pieces from the interview and they put it out there in their reports. Like this fighter states, like Deontay Wilder, after he fought Fury and lost in that rematch, there was a part where he said that he felt that his suit was heavy coming into the ring. So they took that and made an article about it, but Wilder actually said that. There's a difference between that and a report that's saying rumors are circulated. Joshua is going to take step aside money and let Fury and Usyk fight for Undisputed. But they all say it's a rumor, and the rumors always start from one source and they spread like wildfire, and that's exactly what is happening right now. It's never really been official. It's just rumor. And they say the word rumor in order to cover and protect themselves because they don't want to put out false information because that can come back and hurt these media sites. And that's pretty much what's happening right now. So AJ, and look, listen, I'm not saying that this can't happen. It could happen. AJ may in the future take step aside money and say, all right, I'm going to take this $15 million or $20 million or whatever the amount is to step aside and let these guys fight for Undisputed. So it can happen. Maybe it could happen because that's a lot of money. I mean, at this point, Joshua seems like an honorable guy, and I know he wants to be great, and I know he wants to take these challenges. But if someone's willing to pay you that kind of money to just not fight, I can see him possibly taking that money if it's that amount. But is it real? Is it real? Are they willing to pay him that much? I don't even think Usyk has been paid anywhere near that for a fight. So for Joshua to get paid that as a loser in the Usyk fight, it just sounds a bit crazy to me, honestly. And you still got to pay Usyk. You still got to pay Tyson Fury, who's going to want a lot of money to fight Usyk. Can they really pay AJ that amount to step aside? What is the amount that AJ is willing to really take to step aside? We won't know until it's all done and over with. We won't know. We won't know. We can talk about it all we want, but we really don't know. So I can see, look, a lot of us want Undisputed. I wanted it with Joshua and Wilder held the titles. You know, I made plenty of plenty of content. Plenty of content. I wanted Undisputed. I've been wanting Undisputed. You know, I wanted Undisputed for a minute now. I don't care who are the champions, whether it's Wilder and Joshua, whether it's Fury and Joshua, whether it's Fury and Usyk. Like now, I want Undisputed. You know, I want someone to prove like hold all 4 belts simultaneously. And even if that happens, there's a good chance that one of those titles are going to be stripped because there's so many mandatories at this point. You got a WBC mandatory. You know, you have, I believe, maybe a WBO. Maybe I don't know if one of them have been made a mandatory because we're having all these final eliminators and stuff like that. You got final eliminator with the IBF. I think Joe Joyce might be the mandatory for the WBO. So it's really messy. You know, you have a WBA world champion. You have so much stuff that's going on. So whoever is to get involved in an Undisputed fight, if that's next, you still have a lot of obligations after that fight. You have a lot of things going on right now, you know? So we just got to wait and see. Let me just read some of the comments here. Country says AJ didn't shut anything down. He just said he hasn't signed a contract yet. He didn't say he was definitely fighting Usyk next. Well, yeah, but when I mean, people are making it seem like it's going to happen and it's done. Okay. So when I say shut down, he went and said something completely different from what these rumors are stating. The rumors are stating they're getting close and that Fury and Usyk is close to making a deal to fight each other, where there's still the Dillian White situation where we haven't gotten a real update on that. And then there's Joshua's situation where we haven't heard anything from Anthony Joshua, you know, outside of I didn't get a contract, but all the things he's saying, all the things you're hearing is bullshit. This is what he's saying. I didn't see no contract, you know? So in a way, in a sense, we don't have anything right now because it's nothing on paper and he didn't agree to that. He didn't agree to that. He's basically saying, I didn't agree to that. Is that money the right kind of money to make him step aside? Maybe that's not even the right amount. It could be. It could be. But him making a video saying like, listen, all these rumors are bullshit sounds like shutting it down, in my opinion. Now, if he agrees to it later, then he agrees to it later. But as of right now, there's nothing on paper. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't count until it's on paper. Just putting out reports of rumor, that doesn't make it real. It doesn't matter how many people make reports of it. It doesn't make it any more real. So it could be the whole world could say it's no difference between one person making a rumor and 100 people making a rumor. It's still a rumor. It's still a rumor. All right. High Tech says, hey, Wade, what's up? It's been a minute. Yeah. You know, I was out the last few days, but I'm back. Thank you for everyone saying sorry for the loss. I appreciate that. Everyone that's here, smash that like button. Thank you. Appreciate it. How Dandor, there's so much money that would get generated if Fury was to fight Joshua right now, that if Joshua was to lose to Usyk, that it would hurt that fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Joshua steps aside. Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't be surprised me because what I just said, that's a lot of money just to sit. And my thing is, let's say he does step aside for around that amount of money, right? Whether it's 10, 15, 20 million. He can still have another fight in between that. He could still say, you know what? All right. You know what? Hey, Dillian, me and you, let's go at it again. Let's have our rematch. I'm sure he would get at least 20 million in his next fight, whoever he decided to fight. So to get all of that step aside money and then have another bag from having another fight, which is not as dangerous as an Usyk or Fury, that would be crazy. He'd be making a lot more money just not fighting Usyk or Fury and then possibly fighting the winner of that fight. You know, we just got to have to see how it all plays out. But yeah, You know, there's a chance that he might fight Usyk in his rematch if Usyk is to beat Fury, or fight Fury if he's able to beat Usyk. But what happens if Joshua steps aside and Fury and Usyk has a damn rematch clause? Like, how does that work? You know how these rematch clauses work with these guys at heavyweight. Everybody has a rematch clause in all of their fights when it comes to Wilder, Fury, and AJ. For sure, those three are always going to have some kind of rematch clause in whatever fight they're involved in. You know, so we got to look at it in full circle. AJ Country says AJ didn't say he wasn't going to step aside. He just said he didn't have signed a contract yet. Or he didn't say that he was going to step aside neither. This is the thing. He didn't say he was going to step aside. He didn't say he wasn't going to step aside, but he did say he didn't see a contract. This is what I'm saying. Everybody's basing their conclusions off that one line he said on that Sky Sports interview. Everybody's basing on what he said in that one interview. We don't know. We just got to be patient and wait. Everyone wants to jump and come up with how they think this is going to all play out without knowing nothing happened yet. That's my point. My point in making this video is basically to tell you guys, like, there's nothing that happened yet. There's no decision that has been made yet. We have to sit here and be patient. And I know we don't like to be patient. We want to sit there and jump the gun and tell you what's going to happen, predict what's going to happen. Hearing, just rumor this, rumor that, sources this, sources that. Everybody got to calm down and wait to see what decision he's going to make. Let's wait to see what happens with Fury and Dillian White. And let's see what's going to happen here. We got to wait and see, because, again, $15 million, $20 million is a lot of money to give someone that's not involved in the fight, because you still want to make that and much more back to pay Fury and pay Usyk. They want to make their millions too. So to give AJ 15 to 20 million to step aside sounds a lot. It sounds like it's a lot of money. Where is this money coming from? I don't think there's enough people that's talking about that part. That's a lot of money to give someone that's not going to fight, because Fury got to still make his money and Usyk still got to make his money. It's different from paying Usyk a couple million to step aside. Usyk was going to step aside for AJ and Fury. They were going to do it. But Wilder got away with that because he wanted his title shot again, because that was something that was previously agreed on. It was agreed on already. Wilder wanted his fight. Usyk was willing to step aside for $2 million. $2 million is different from 15 to 20 million. It's completely different. We're not even in the same ballpark here. Is Usyk even getting 15 million for this fight with Fury if that were to go down? I don't even know. We don't know. No one knows. What's up, Captain? How you doing, man? And that's the thing. Captain has made a point. I will be 3 times champions. He means that he take the win. This is something I've heard AJ say out of his mouth. So everybody's talking about him agreeing to step aside or talking about a contract. Well, I also heard that AJ say 3 times champion. Is that in his very next fight? Or is that in the future? I don't know. But he could be talking about his very next fight. All these videos of showing AJ talking about what he needs, showing what he's working on, and for the Usyk rematch, him trying to change trainers, him prepping for the Usyk rematch. He's prepping for the fight with Usyk. So let's just not jump the gun and dismiss AJ altogether until he agrees to that step aside. If he signs a contract, then we can talk about Usyk and Fury. But for now, we just don't know. Let me read some more of the comments. Richard says all of these rumors are coming from Fury camp. It's all BS, smoke and mirrors to trying to get fans on their side. They are obligated to fight right, whether they like it or not. And that's a possibility too. Again, how many times do we got to get tricked with all this hype and all these false reports that come out? It's there to build. I've told you guys, how many times I told you guys this? This is promo for the actual fight that is going to happen. And normally, when it comes to the bigger names, we see it a lot at 135. Most of these reports that are coming out are false. Potential fights, Ryan Garcia, Manny Pacquiao, remember that? Remember that? It wasn't too long ago that we were hearing that these guys were working on a fight. It might be all BS. Joshua comes out and say today, it's all BS. I didn't see any contract. This is what I'm saying. Even if it's not true, let's say Fury and Usyk don't fight, right? You're still building, you're still marketing Tyson Fury no matter what, because his name is always going to stay. It's going to be always in discussion. He might fight White. He might still fight White. Yeah, we're talking about him in an Undisputed fight. We're talking about him possibly fight AJ. We're talking about everybody but the actual fight that may take place, which we don't know yet. It's all hype. Legend says, High Tech says, if I'm AJ, I'm taking a 15 million. Well, if 15 million is or 15 million euros is the amount, yes, take that. Take that to sit on your couch and just chill, or just prepare for your next, try to figure out. You have more time to figure out the trainer situation. You have more time. So yes, I would take it too. Legend says, here's the thing. Why are people fanboy out over if AJ steps aside? Truth is, if I could get a contract to fight the winner afterwards, because I like AJ, but I don't see him beating Usyk. Well, I think it would be more. This is going to be a problem regardless, because I can't see Undisputed being a real thing, knowing that there's so many mandatories involved. I don't see it being that simple. It's bigger than just AJ, Fury, and Usyk right now. At the end of the day, yes, I believe that AJ could possibly or will fight Fury at some point. Will it be for all four of the titles, though? That's the thing. It might not be that. I know they want to market the fight as an undisputed fight between AJ and Fury, but will it be that? That is a bigger fight. Just like Wilder and AJ was a bigger fight at one point. That was a big fight at one point. Usyk stepping in, it kind of throws everything off. I'm not saying Usyk is not a big fight neither, but the biggest fights are between the heavyweights that's been there. There's been a lot of talking and building up to an AJ and Fury fight, to an AJ and Wilder fight, to a Fury and Wilder fight, which is what we got. We got that, but there's still a lot of buildups for the fights that haven't occurred yet. Chad said he just hasn't seen the contract. Doesn't mean he isn't going to take it. Well, that's a possibility. But we got to look at all of the possibilities. We can't just look at the possibilities that we want. We have to look at everything that's going down, All right. But AJ is definitely thinking about it for sure. I'm sure AJ is definitely possible that he may take the step aside money. I mean, when it's that amount of money, listen, if you're going to pay me that money to not fight, of course it's real. It's a real thing. That's a lot of money. AJ was getting that amount of money to fight, at points. So if you're going to pay me that amount to not fight, okay, go ahead. You guys do your Undisputed thing. I just want to make sure I get the winner after that fight takes place. You just got to wait and see. We got to wait and see. And every guy, it got to work for everybody. It got to work because we don't know what Usyk won. Usyk is a champion right now. Is he going to want that? Is there going to be a rematch clause put into place for Usyk and Fury? If there is going to be one, where did that leave AJ? Where did that leave what's his name? Dillian White. Listen, this is what I want. This is what I want. I want Undisputed. But if we don't get Undisputed, this is what I want. I want Fury to fight Dillian White, and I want AJ to fight Usyk. The winner of those two fights fight each other for Undisputed. So if we don't get Undisputed now, I want that other option. I want that to be the second option. All right. Let AJ do his thing, hash out everything, the rematch clause he has with Usyk, so we can know who's really the better fighter. And let Dillian White get his mandatory shot at Tyson Fury. And the winner of both fights can move on and fight for Undisputed. All right. So we don't have to ask any more questions. Again, if these guys can fight Undisputed now, then that's great. If not, let these two handle their business. Let's clean up this mess that's going on, because it's going to be more of a mess down the line anyway, because you have mandatories that's waiting. You're going to have, by the time that this is all sorted out, there's going to be an IBF, a WBO, and probably a WBA mandatory waiting around to get their title shot. I don't know how much Trevor Bryan's WBA regular title is going to mean and come into play with all of this stuff, but I know Joe Joyce is right there, all right, for the WBO, and he might even be right there for the IBF if he's going to fight Filip Hrgovic, all right, for that IBF thing, because Tony Yoka, that seems like that's not going to happen now. That Tony Yoka thing fell through, all right? So we just got to wait and be patient as boxing fans. Rumors are going to fly all day, left and right. Rumors this, rumors that. Everybody's going to bring up rumors. Everybody's talking about it. It might be true, but it's still a rumor. It's still a rumor. What we do know, let's talk about the rumors and what we do know. What we do know is that Dillian White and Tyson Fury is still in arbitration trying to settle this WBC dispute, this mandatory dispute, and we're waiting on the results from that. And what we do know that's fact, that's in writing, that's in contract, is that AJ has a rematch clause with Alexander Usyk. The thing about the $15 million, that's not in writing. That's not in writing right now. That is just a rumor. That is not factual yet. It'll be factual when we know, all right, it's been announced. AJ agrees to step aside. Fury and Usyk is done and set for the next match. And Dillian White is out of the picture. When we find that out, and when those reports come out without having the word rumor attached to it, then we'll know. But for right now, it's just a rumor. It's not fact. All right. All right. So I think that's all I wanted to say with that, and we could move on to this Gary Russell Jr. Mark Magsayo fight. All right, which I was supposed to cover because but due to what happened, I wasn't able to jump on here and go live the other day. But I did see the fight. Problem is, I was watching majority of it. I was watching with my father. We was going back and forth between the UFC. He got bored of the Gary Russell fight because he didn't like the fact that it was just a one-arm fight, So there are rounds that I didn't see the night of the fight. I want to say I saw 9 of the 12 rounds. Okay, but from what I saw, and I actually went and watched the whole fight today, I think Mark Magsayo did enough to pull off the win. I don't think it was a robbery. I think it was a close competitive fight, but I don't think Gary Russell won the fight. All right. It is what it is. I think that fight took a lot from me, and based on what I see in Mark Magsayo, it was a win for him, in my opinion. It was a win for him. The judges thought it was a win, but I wasn't really impressed with him. Due that I didn't know what the injury. You guys know going into this fight, I brought up all of these points. Gary was going through family issues. He was inactive for 2 years. All right. We knew he had an injury. We just didn't know the seriousness of the injury. You know, it could have been a shoulder injury, which it was. It could have been a leg injury. It could be a foot injury. We don't know what the injury. It could be a hand injury. We didn't know the seriousness. We didn't know any details. All we heard him say is that he had a little injury going into the fight, and he'll speak on it after the fight. That's all we knew. Now, in the beginning, the first couple of rounds, it looked like Gary was a bit rusty. All right, but he was still doing well early. And then it was, I think, the third or fourth round where he hurt his shoulder. All right, and he was not using his right hand for the rest of the fight. All right, he straight used his left hand for the remainder of the fight. And Mark Magsayo was he brought more volume. He was the aggressor between the two. Gary Russell was the slick fighter. He had to rely heavily on his defense, which was very good, and his straight left hand, which is all we got from him in front of him. He could not use his right hand. All he used his right hand to do was to measure Mark Magsayo. All right. He didn't really use it as a weapon. He wasn't using his jab, wasn't really doing much. Everything was a straight left hand, which left him to be very limited. All right. What did I see in the fight? Mark Magsayo, I like the body punches. All right. The right hands to the body, the uppercuts to the body, the hooks to the body, the right uppercuts that he landed, timing Gary at times. But overall, not a lot of clean punching from him because Gary was able to show superb defense because of the fact that he was very limited with, his right hand not being there. So he had to rely on the defense, and defensively, he looked great. Offensively, he landed more clean and more accurate, but it wasn't enough. Whereas even though Mark didn't land a lot of shots, and I think that's the rift between people because I can see it from both sides. I see the fact that people like Gary's let me say his accuracy, just constantly popping Mark's head back from time to time. Was it enough though? Clearly it wasn't enough to the judges. It was close. One had it a draw. The other two had Gary up around, I think it's 7 rounds to 5. I think 7 rounds to 5 either way was decent. I heard Gary's interview after it. Yeah, he said something about 10 rounds to 2, 9 rounds to 3. I'm like, come on, Gary. Like, let's be real. Let's be real. That's a stretch. I mean, he's going to be biased for himself. All right. But from the outside looking in, even most people that thought Gary won, he won like 7 rounds to 5. I scored it 7 rounds to 5, 8 rounds to 4 for Magsayo. I think I had 2 swing rounds in there. But I picked Magsayo because of the activity. Gary, to say that he won, he didn't win the championship round to me at all. I think maybe the 7th and 8th rounds were some of his better rounds. And then after that, Magsayo started to pull away. Up to that 7th, 8th round, up until the 8th round, I can probably say that I had a slight edge for Gary. And then after that, I think Magsayo started to really pull away because at that point, it was all defense from Gary. It wasn't enough offense. I think the 12th round was very debatable, but I think those later rounds, I think Magsayo started to really pull away from Gary because Gary just wasn't throwing enough for me. All right. Now, that's the way I saw the fight. Mark Magsayo, overall, I like him. I know he's this Manny Pacquiao protege. We brought all of that up in the fight. Flaws. Shout out to Boxing Gems. Boxing Gems, great channel, great film study channel. Probably my favorite film study channel right now. He pointed out that Mark Magsayo has an issue with resetting himself and constantly bouncing over and over again before he throws or when he exits out of an exchange. He kept doing it all night long. I think if he were to have a rematch with Gary, or if he were to fight other opponents in the future, they're going to expose that flaw. He needs to shut that down because you see in it throughout the whole fight. All right. He likes to get out, bounce 3 times, and then goes right back in. He does it constantly. He can't stop doing it. He's so used to doing it that he's going to have a whole camp of just training and preparing and stop and not do that. He has to stop doing that because it's easy to time him. All right. You know when he's about to step in because 1, 2, 3 bounce, 1, 2, 3 bounce. He comes out, he exits and does it. And before he goes back in, he does it again. All right. He constantly resets himself by doing that. He has to stop doing that. Another thing is too, not great against southpaws. We knew this going into the fight because if you've seen his previous fight with a southpaw recently, he didn't look that good. Also, he doesn't look that good against guys that attack the body. He doesn't have any inside game. Unfortunately for him, Gary Russell could not fight on the inside with him because he was only fighting with one arm. All right. So when I made my breakdown, I said Gary can make the adjustment and try to bully and work himself in go into the body, fight out of that high guard if he wanted to. But because he was fighting with one arm, he wasn't able to make those kind of adjustments, so he was just pot shotting the whole entire time, and he really had nothing else he could do because he had to stay on his defense. So very limited with Gary Russell. Mark, how do I rate him? If he were to fight Gary Russell with 2 hands, he would have definitely lost. The fight was way too close, fighting a one-handed fight. But he won the fight to me. He won the fight. And I think that's the problem. I think people are looking at the fact that people are calling Mark Magsayo this Pacquiao protege, and the fact that he fought a one-armed Gary Russell and Gary still was able to still do good against him. No, I think that's true. But did Gary do enough to actually win the fight? In my opinion, no. I think he fell short. It was close, but he still fell short. I think Mark did enough to win the fight with consistency. Those right hands to the body, those right hands to the chest. He didn't land much up top, but the consistency with the amount of punches that he was throwing, with the punches that he landed, to me, won him the fight. Gary was more accurate, but didn't throw enough, in my opinion. Very limited. All right. If they were to have a rematch, and if Gary has his arm is good, if his shoulder is good, and they were to have a rematch and Gary's fighting the way that Gary normally fights, I think he definitely wins the fight. But that's if Gary is ever going to be the same. Is he ever going to be the same again? I don't know. But I know going into the fight, if Gary was going to lose a fight, which is what he did, it was going to be that night because of everything going into the fight. Probably not having the best camp because not everyone's there. Him being a half-pound overweight for the fight, him being 2 years inactive, all right? And he's fighting a young, aggressive fighter who was fresher than him, all right? Let me read some of the commentary before I move on. The Racing Angel says, I bet $300 on Mark, but got to admit, Mark would have lost if Gary was not injured, and that's exactly my point. I agree with you 100%. Gary on his best day would have outboxed Mark Magsayo easily, in my opinion, but the other night wasn't it, Louis Carr says, I think your journalistic integrity and non-sensational headlines will separate you from the pack. I appreciate your channel, and I appreciate you for saying that, and thank you, and the thing is, what, sometimes I want to just jump on a computer and when I hear rumors, I get excited, because when I hear rumors of an Undisputed, I get excited. But I'm reading these reports and I keep seeing word rumor circulating. Rumors this. It's still a rumor. All right. What's fact is the rematch clause. What's fact is WBC mandatory. Rumor is not a fact. It's just a thing that's going around. It came from a certain source and it's getting spreaded out all over the place. So I kind of wanted to see and wait to see what's going on. Once AJ spoke on it and he brought up the 15 million, He said, I ain't seen no contract. This is bullshit. That's all I needed to hear. All the other stuff is fluff. The Racing Angel says, Freddie Roach said Mark was undisciplined and kept throwing at the head instead of the body like Freddie wanted. Well, you know what? Mark should have went to the body more, but he kept going to the head. He did go to the head half the time. If he had put more work into the body, he would have been more successful, and I think the win would have been more clear. But Gary, his head movement and just his timing, I mean, he's a good defensive fighter. Mark couldn't get it the timing right, you know, and Gary had to rely more on his defense because offensively he was very limited, you know. Watts Loke says, Gary did mention that doctors recommended surgery for his injury years ago. Yep, I remember that. I did hear that. But he refuses. I wonder if this is the reason Gary participates in one fight a year. And you know what? That's a great point. That's a great comment, and that's a great point because I did hear that too. I think this injury has been here since the beginning of his career. And maybe that's why he's not that active. He probably just wanted everything you just said. It may be right. It may be right. I think he should have just got it done. You know, he got it done back then and would have been all taken care of. When you wait until, you know, your mid-30s or approaching your mid-30s, these injuries, these old injuries are starting to come out now. It's starting to show up. You know, get the surgery. Gary should right now focus on getting the surgery, all right, and recovery. You know, so you can extend your career. You know, if you really want to continue to fight, if you want to get the surgery done now, knock it out, come back, you could be champion again. Might not be an immediate rematch like he wants, but get it done. Get it done. Don't wait any longer because you can't go on and fight other fighters. You know, I give him a lot of credit and a lot of heart for going in that ring and fighting with one hand against a very dangerous opponent. But at the end of the day, you still went in there with one hand. It was your choice, the decision. You made that decision to do that. And you fought, you were only half yourself. And half yourself just wasn't enough for me. It was close. It was good, but it wasn't enough to me. When Gary had two hands, he was getting whooped. I don't think that's true. I totally disagree with that. Chillin 92 says when Gary has two hands, he was getting whooped. No, I think it was the beginning of the fight. And I think Mark was having success because of the fact that Gary was, you know, a little bit limited. But if you look at the third, or a little bit rusty, but if you look at the third round, he wasn't getting whooped in the third round. Third round was the first clear win for either one of them. I thought the first two rounds were debatable. And then the third round was a clear, great round for Gary. And then the fourth round is where he got hurt, you know? So I think at that point, it got more competitive because Gary started to use the left hand. But even with the left hand, there was a point where he started getting used to just using the left hand and landing some of those left hands. Like I like the 7th and 8th round. I personally gave Gary the 7th and 8th round, you know? So we all going to see it differently, but you know, it is what it is. CMP says Russell was embarrassing. Magsayo won. I don't think embarrassing is the right word for a fighter that fought with one hand. That's not embarrassing. That's you being limited, and you actually literally fought with one hand. It's not like when Lomachenko needed surgery after his arm, but he was fighting with both, and he was winning in the later rounds of the fight. This is a fight where Gary was literally using one arm from the fourth round to the remainder of the fight, you know, to the end of the fight. Tap says on the fourth, Magsayo claims that he hit Gary's shoulder and that caused the injury. What are your thoughts? It could be, but if it's a looming injury, I mean that's the punch that activated the injury. You know, regardless, Gary fought with one hand. All right. If Magsayo is the one that hit it, that's cool. It is what it is. Listen, I'm not making no excuses for Gary. Gary fought one arm. That's what we saw. All right. He said he had an injury going into the fight, and there was a punch, whether it was a punch thrown or maybe he thrown a punch. There was an injury in the fight, and we saw it throughout the fight. we saw for 2/3 at least of the fight. So at the end of the day, that's what we saw. That's what happened. I think Gary did well for the fact that he fought with one arm, but it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, in my opinion. Dirty Red says he wants to see a rematch. I do too. God of War says BoxingWave is one of the few calm and collective boxing YouTubers. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Staunch says Usyk's manager had an interview and said Fury Usyk is 50% likelihood. Well, 50-50 is not enough. And I think that was my point of my what I was saying earlier about everything. All right. King Alfred says Hearn is going to present options to Joshua tomorrow, and that's when we'll decide. And let's just wait. We just gotta wait. We gotta wait. Let's see what these guys can do. Let the guys in the suits negotiate and make these contracts and decide everything for and make everybody happy. And that's all we can do. That's all we can wait and do at this point. Let's just sit it out and wait. Again, I love to just jump. You hear some rumors, you hear some news. I love to just run on here, turn my camera on, and talk about what we're hearing. But I want something solid to come in first, because I don't have the time. I just can't make all these videos of stuff that's false. I can't do it. I want something solid to come in before we start addressing it, because what I don't want to do is come back on here and tell you guys, listen, I told you guys something that's not true, and now I got to be apologetic about it. You know what I'm saying? Ricky says, in my opinion, Gary has not been the same fighter since the Lomachenko fight. I don't think that's true. Absolutely. I don't believe that's true. I think Lomachenko was just a loss he took. I think before the Lomachenko fight, Gary Russell fought people that weren't as good as the people he fought after the Lomachenko fight. All right. So if you're saying he hasn't looked the same, maybe he's not looking the same because he's fighting better fighters. And even with that, I still didn't think he fought the best of the best at 126. There's a lot of fights that didn't take place. Not his fault. There's a lot of guys ducked him, but he still fought better fighters than he fought before the Lomachenko fight. If you follow Gary Russell in his pro career, it was like, Gary Russell fought a lot of fighters that weren't really that good. Shout out to Dirty Red for the super chat. Thank you. Can great value Pac-Man fight that well with one arm? I like Family Dollar Pacquiao, but some of y'all need to stop it. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. I think when I brought up Mark Magsayo and compared him to Pacquiao, I compared some of the similarities he has with Pacquiao. I can't tell you what everybody else did when they brought up Mark Magsayo. I don't know if people were promoting him as a junior or a baby Pacquiao. That I wasn't doing. Yeah, he's from the Philippines. They do have a relationship. He's being trained by Freddie Roach, and he does have some things that he do that are similar. I think some of the angles of where he throw his punches are similar to Pacquiao. I don't think he's that similar to Manny Pacquiao, and never have I ever tried to make him look as if he's the next coming of Manny Pacquiao. Never did that. In fact, I don't even believe that with this win. I don't even believe that he's the better between the other fighters at 126. And I'm going to get that into that in a minute. But I wouldn't disrespect him by saying he's a Family Dollar Pacquiao. I just don't think he's as good as Pacquiao. I think he's his own fighter. And he has a lot more flaws than Manny Pacquiao. He's just not him. He's good in his own way, but he's his own person at the end of the day. There's some similarities there, but being the next Pacquiao, I never went that far. I don't know if other people, I can't speak for others. I don't know what other people are saying out there. I don't know how other people gave breakdowns. I only watched a couple breakdowns for this fight. All right. Jesus Cruz asked BoxingWave, what do you think Gary Russell does next? Well, if he can get the rematch, I think he will go for the rematch. If he can get it, I don't think it's going to be a rematch though. I think regardless, I think the next thing Gary Russell does is have the surgery and recover. All right. And get back to it, take the time off to get yourself back together if you want to become a two-time champ, which is, I think, is something very, very possible, you just might have to get this surgery, recover, and then go and fight whoever you got to fight to put yourself back in position to get another title shot. The way the WBC works, it seems like a lot of their former champions get placed in a position to fight for a title again very quickly. All right. I don't know if it's going to be like that for him, but if you look at Wilder when he lost, if you look at Danny Garcia when he's lost in the past, if you look at Sean Porter, certain fighters are in positions to fight for a title, a championship title again after a loss. So if Gary is to recover first, get another fight, you know, he says he wants to fight 2 or 3 times a year. I didn't really believe it when I heard it, but if he's serious about that, recover, get back in the gym, get back, 100% or wherever you're at, get some fights in the bag, and fight for another title again, because I personally believe that he still may be the best guy at 126 if he's 100%. If he's 100%. All right. The Racing Angel says Gary, a true warrior, showed heart, but everything was going against him and he still made it close. Exactly. And this is why I still believe that he may be the best guy at 126. He just has to recover and prove it. We just got to wait and see. All right. So, look, Mark Magsayo, going back to him. I thought about this before making the video, and this was specifically to talk about where do I see Mark Magsayo and how do I rate him amongst the guys at 126. Going down a list here, I believe Gary Russell at 100% wouldn't have beaten him that night. I would have said that. I said that also in a prediction video I did. I said Gary Russell 100% would beat him, being that he's not 100% going into the fight. I'm not sure if he's going to beat him. I was wrong. At the end of the day, I stuck with Gary because that was my original view on how the fight would go. And I stuck with Gary because I didn't know the extent of the injuries. I didn't know anything. All I knew was that he was inactive and stuff. I knew it would be close, but I picked Gary to pull out a decision. But Mark is the one that pulled out the decision, all right? When it comes to Emmanuel Navarrete, I have Emmanuel Navarrete beating Mark Magsayo and possibly stopping Mark Magsayo. I probably would have said this even before this fight here, but even after watching this fight, it even further confirmed that if him and Emmanuel Navarrete were to unify at some point, which would be a great fight, it would be an explosive fight. I like Navarrete. I think Navarrete is not only a better boxer, he's more aggressive. His punch output is much higher. He could switch from righty to lefty. I think he can do a lot much more. I think Emmanuel Navarrete is highly underrated. I mean, he's one of, besides Gary Russell, he's probably my favorite fighter at 126. I love him. I'm a big supporter of Navarrete. And, people look at him and dislike him because they probably think he's just another Mexican fighter that just throws a lot of punches and can't box. No, he doesn't have great defense, but he knows how to be very effective with his style. I like him a lot, and I expect him to beat Mark Magsayo if they were to ever fight each other. I think he'll beat Mark Magsayo, and I think he could possibly stop him. Who else is out there? If Mark was to beat a fight a Josh Warrington, I would probably lean towards Mark Magsayo being Josh Warrington. All right. I think I would lean towards him being Josh Warrington. In fact, I think he would do better. I think stylistically, I think he would be better against Josh than being against Mauricio Lara. I think Lara would be tough for him because Lara would go to his body. Lara would really dig to his body. He would put that pressure on Mark like Julio Cesar did. All right. But if Brandon Figueroa were to move up and fight on Mark Magsayo, I will also have Brandon winning that fight because Brandon is a guy that's going to put you on the back foot. He's going to put you against the ropes and he's going to attack your body. And that's another thing. Guys like him, guys like Emmanuel Navarrete, these guys are going to put you against the ropes and try to slaughter you, right? Mark is a guy that needs space. He needs to move. You can't, once he's on the ropes, we saw in that Julio Cesar fight. We also saw in the other fight. What was the other fight where he fought the southpaw that gave him all that trouble? What's his name? Hermosillo. Guys like Hermosillo, guy like Julio Cesar, those guys did a lot of damage against Mark. I think guys like Brandon, who can switch from righty to lefty, from southpaw to orthodox. Guys like Emmanuel Navarrete, those guys give him trouble. Even Mauricio Lara gives him trouble. All right, I'm still like 50-50 with that one, but I think he beats Josh Warrington. I think he beats I think Magsayo beats Kiko Martinez, who's also a champion now. I think he beats him, but I don't see him being the best. Oh, Leo Santa Cruz. How can I forget? We can't forget about Leo Santa Cruz. I have Leo Santa Cruz beating Mark Magsayo as well. I know he lost, and I know he got stopped by and he has a fight coming up. He's going to be on the undercard against I forgot who he was fighting. I know he's going to be on a Keith Thurman, Mario Barrios undercard. I know he lost to Tank Davis, but he was giving Davis one hell of a fight. The fight was at 130. And I think if Leo comes back down to 126 and were to fight Mark Magsayo, which I think is the strongest possibility right now, I think Leo Santa Cruz beats him, depending on how he looks against his next opponent. He's been inactive. He hasn't fought since he got knocked out by Tank Davis. So I would like to see him fight because it's been a minute, and I want to see how he looks coming back from a vicious knockout like that. So we just got to wait and see. But if Leo looks like Leo, if he looks like he's still on his A game, I have him being Mark Magsayo. So I have him beating him. I have Navarrete beating him as well. All right. All right. So let me answer a few of y'all comments here. Who would I fare, Gary Russell Jr. versus Leo Santa Cruz? I think if they were both 100% and that they fought when they were supposed to fight, I had Gary Russell beating him back then. All right. Right now, I don't know. Leo, I haven't seen fight in a long time. He got knocked out in his last fight. And Gary Russell would be coming off of surgery. So I can't predict that right now. But when they were both champions, when they were both, more in their prime, I would have picked Gary Russell if they had fought each other. But I like Leo. I like, his punch output. I just think that Gary would have probably neutralized him. And Gary has good defense. And I think Gary brought a lot more to Leo than what the other fighters that Leo beat, like Frampton and Mares, all those guys. I think Gary was more dangerous than all of those guys. And I think that's part of the reason why Leo didn't want to fight him. All right. No, you saying Gary should fight Leo next. Leo doesn't want the fight. Leo fight would have happened when they were both champions in the division and they would have unified. It didn't happen. So I don't think that fight is something that can happen. It could happen in the future, but happening next, I don't expect it. If Leo is to win his next fight in a couple of weeks, I could see him fighting Magsayo. They're both PBC. They're both be holding championship belts, and that'll be it. Jesus says Gary all the way over Santa Cruz. I don't think the fight will happen based on Santa Cruz's latest comments. Yeah, he did make some comments. I think he said something about a contract. There was a contract or anything like that. He made some contract, the money. He said something based on the money. All right. But I just don't think Leo has ever really been interested in that fight. All right. Rocky says we probably won't see Gary again until 2023. He said he needs surgery. Yeah, well, I want him to get the surgery, Now, is it going to take, if he does it immediately, will it take a whole year? It might not. He might probably need 3 months to recover. And then he could probably go back to the gym and start working. All surgeries don't require a full year. We just got to wait and see with his. We don't know. We just got to wait and see. Rocky Boy said Gary should just retire. He don't want this no more. It's solely up to him. I'm not gonna tell him to retire based on the the injury. Only if he knows whether or not he wants it anymore. I wouldn't go as far as saying he doesn't want it anymore. All right, that may not be true. Kenneth Jefferson says, according to Steven Espinosa, who's the president of Showtime, if you guys don't know, the fight was close, and the fight was so close and competitive. Speaks to Gary Russell Jr.'s skill set and would be receptive to a rematch provided Gary being healthy. Again, Is both parties, do both parties agree with that? We have to wait and see how long would it take for Gary to get back. Is Mark Magsayo willing to wait for Gary Russell to get healthy again? No, especially if a Leo Santa Cruz fight is on the table. If that fight is on the table, we're not going to be seeing a Gary Russell Jr. rematch. All right. So you gotta be realistic about it. I doubt the possibility of a rematch unless Gary Russell could recover very quickly, and I still don't doubt. I still doubt it. All right. Rocky Boy says shoulder 6 to 9 months for recovery. Yeah, didn't take that long for Lomachenko to recover though for his injury. All right. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody's different. It depends on the injury itself. It didn't take that long, but if I don't know, we just gotta wait and see. You gotta wait and see. But I figure a year because Gary is used to only fighting once a year anyway. Now that he lost a fight, how eager will he be to come back to the ring? I don't know. We just got to wait and see. I don't know. Lennox says, salute Wade. What's up, Lennox? Was good. Barrios versus Keith with the long layoff. I got to do a video on that, but I'm leaning towards Keith Thurman to win. Yeah. I think now Gary gonna be the new Boo Boo Andre. Don't think people gonna want to fight him unless they have to, and that's possible. That's very possible. It's very possible. It's very possible. That's why Gary got to make the decision. And he's willing to, when he recovers, however long it takes, is he willing to have more than 2 to 3? Is he willing to get 2 or 3 fights a year? Can he do that? We just gotta wait and see. King Alfred asks, did I sell my crypto? I've been watching most of the crypto, because everything is going down. The couple that I am holding, no, I have not sold them. Okay, I'm not holding much, but I'm looking to buy some soon. All right, I'm only holding a couple things. I'm still holding my crypto that I've bought back in 5 years ago. The bigger ones like Bitcoin and then Ethereum, I'm still holding them from 5 years ago. Yes, I'm not going to be selling those anytime soon. But as far as what I've been doing short-term trades with, I'm only holding one. I think Dogecoin is the only one that I'm holding that I bought. I bought back after the first run, the initial run. All right, from when it was under a cent. I bought back. I sold and then I bought some back, and I'm holding that still. So I'm a little low. I think I bought Dogecoin at 17 cents back when it dropped originally from the first run, and I'm still holding it from there. So I've been holding that for a while now. All right. So yeah. J-Man says, Usyk and Tyson Fury, who would you pick for the win? I don't know, man. I'm kind of leaning towards Fury, though. I am leaning towards Fury. I'm probably going to stick with Fury, but Usyk is tough. But Fury, I got Fury on that one. All right. Yeah. Lennox says, didn't catch the fight. Who did you have winning? I had Magsayo edging it out. All right. 7 rounds to 5. A couple of swing rounds though, but I had Magsayo edging it out. I think Magsayo finished the fight strong, won the championship rounds to me. All right. Don't ask me says, I don't think Fury's legs are that what they used to be. I favorite Usyk being able to avoid him and negate Fury's weight advantage. To be honest, I spoke on that before. I don't know what video I did, but I was live before, and I said that I actually think a lighter Fury does better against Usyk. Okay, I think the heavier Fury, even though he has more power and he's more durable, I think the heavier Fury is weaker against Usyk. I think he was stronger against Wilder, but I think a lighter, quicker Fury that moves better would be better against Usyk's style. I think he would move a lot better. It's just that I don't see Fury ever going back to being that light again. So I'm still leaning towards Fury overall, but I think Usyk can do some of the things that who's the fighter that gave Fury some issues that was supposed to fight Dillian White? Can't think of his name right now. Who's the Swedish? I believe he's Swedish. I can't think of his name. You guys know what I'm talking about, though. Let me know in the comments. I'm looking him up now. All right, Otto Wallin. I think Usyk can do some of those things that Otto Wallin was able to do with the pressure, with the punching and trying to crowd Fury. Usyk can do that, but do it much better. Obviously, Fury still clearly won the fight to me. It's just the cut that really made things as hard as they were. But Usyk can do that, but do it better. I think if Fury was lighter, he would be better. But I'm still leaning towards Fury. You got to also look at Fury's not AJ. Fury boxes, even the heavier Fury boxes a lot better than AJ. AJ just did everything wrong against Usyk that night. That would not be Tyson Fury. So we got to understand that Fury is a much bigger threat to Usyk than AJ and Derek Chisora. I even think Derek Chisora did better than AJ in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Usyk is good. You just gotta wait and see. Can't wait to see. I mean, listen, if they're gonna fight next, that's a breakdown that I look forward to doing. That's one that I look forward to making content on. When that happens, if that gets made, all right. Yeah, Usyk would work the body against Fury. Yup, I see you, Beth. Yes. Yeah, Fury wouldn't cut that. I don't think he would ever be as light as he was again. Don't ask me. Says the cut changed the fight. Fury seemed to lose focus when Wally started using his palm to scrape off at the cut. Yeah, it changed the fight momentarily. I think at some point Fury started to, I think early on, when the cut first happened, I think it gave Fury some issues. But once the fight continued, Fury started doing much better, and I think he clearly won the fight. Wallin did good though. J-Min, I have a hard time picking Keith for the win. Barrios likes to go to the body. Yeah, he does. I was gonna make a video. I'm gonna make a video about it. When I heard the news, I didn't like it at all because my expectations of Keith Thurman is so high, and as a fan, I'm kind of disappointed the way his career has gone. But I really enjoyed his interviews that he's done lately, especially the Porter podcast one. The injuries really messed up his career. It's the injuries. I think him not getting his title fight against Floyd when he was the WBA mandatory or interim champion, I think that really messed with him. And I think the injuries made him a bit insecure and made him a bit I think he lacked a little confidence in himself. So I was a little harsh on the video I did when I first heard about this fight, but I still think Keith Thurman is going to win this fight. I think Barrios is dangerous. I think Barrios is a good boxer, but there's no fight that I've seen on Barrios that makes me think that what he can do can be a real problem for Keith. I actually still slightly favored Josecito chances against Keith Thurman than Barrios' chances against him. All right. I'm going to make a video on that. I'm going to make a video. So I don't want to talk too much about that. All right. Because that fight is coming up and I definitely got to do a video on that. All right. If AJ gets schooled again, what do you think is next for him? I think if AJ gets schooled again, there's still opportunities for AJ because AJ is a cash cow. Again, I said before, I think the Fury fight will still always be there. I think the Wilder fight can still possibly be there because it'll still generate a lot of money. I think, obviously certain things would, he wouldn't be any at this point losing Usyk again. He won't be considered the top dog, but there are fights that are still very, that are out there. He can always rematch Dillian White. Again, there will be fights out there. He just can't beat Usyk. If he loses to Usyk again, he can't beat Usyk. Now, if Usyk goes on to beat Tyson Fury, the losses won't look that bad. This is what I'm saying. So we just got to wait and see. I have Stephen Fulton beating Magsayo, by the way. Yes. I would have Fulton beating him. I would have Brandon Figueroa beating Magsayo. And I would have Navarrete for sure beating Magsayo. All right. I think Magsayo. I'm leaning towards Leo too. Leo Santa Cruz. I think Magsayo beats Josh Warrington. I think he beats. He might. I'm leaning a little towards Mauricio Lara too. I think he beats Kiko Martinez. But I don't see him beating Brandon or Stephen Fulton. All right, so that's it for today, man. It was great live, but I got to get out of here. We'll be back with some more boxing. That's definitely got to speak on Keith Thurman soon. Barrios. So be on the lookout for that. Again, smash the like button. Please hit the like button if you're here. I think 70 people are here. Everybody, please smash that like button. Share the video if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I'm out, man. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.